Everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for another edition of Making of a Transformational Leader on Amogate Radio Communications. My name is Tolu Omodero. Have your weeks been? Hope you've been good. Hope you've been taking care of yourselves, and hope you've been using some of the principles that we've been sharing on this program. We remain committed to supporting you, to enabling you. For us, well done is always better than well said. So please feel free to reach out to us at any point if you need our support in helping to implement some of these principles. So last week, we looked at following through with your strategic plan for the implementation of a transformational vision. I repeat, following through with your strategic plan for the implementation of a transformational vision. I remember sharing last week that we've always been passionate about bridging the strategy performance gap. And we also started by emphasizing the fact that distraction can be a weapon. And many times when you attempt to implement transformational visions, those who want to counter that change, right? Those who do not want to see the transformation, because don't ever forget, people like the comfort zone, and change is the enemy of the comfort zone. Unfortunately, though, or incidentally, change only happens outside the comfort zone. So anytime you're asking for transformational vision, anytime you're attempting to be a transformational leader, you are essentially about to take people out of their comfort zones, and people generally do not like that. So you are likely to encounter some resistance, very, very likely, significantly likely, right? Even though it's going to turn out for their good eventually, many times people just don't like change, right? That's just the way of life. And when you come up with your transformational vision and you encounter the sure to be encountered challenges. Part of the things that people think, those who really want to oppose the change, part of the things they think is that you are going to lose momentum, right? And incidentally, I remember saying last week that for them to be that sure, we've encountered such challenges sometimes in the course of attempting to support leaders in implementing their transformational visions. We've had some other people in leadership positions say to us, we will see what will end up with, where your enthusiasm will end up. We will wait while your enthusiasm fizzles out. Thankfully, our enthusiasm did not fizzle out. Rather, for the most part, such people have been transited out of those leadership positions so that we could follow through with the change. However, if it were not possible for the enthusiasm to fizzle out, they would not threaten, right? They will not make that a threat. So it is possible, is the point we made last week, and we're standing by that point. It is possible for the momentum to fizzle out. It is possible for transformational leaders to be distracted from their vision. It is possible because we're talking about implementation here. It's the long haul. And that's why it's important for us to learn how to follow through, not just follow up, but to follow through with our strategic plans for the implementation of a transformational vision. A transformational vision can be very long term, can be very far-sighted. We've already established that on this program. As a matter of fact, visions are very far-sighted. That's why it's called a vision. We are looking far ahead, right? And the process of, attempting to birth that vision while carrying that baby, you are going to encounter several challenges. Now, one of the things we also said in addition to that, in addition to establishing the fact that it is possible for the fire, the enthusiasm of transformational visions to fizzle out, right? We also talked about, a simple framework that can enable us to stay through, right? To stay through, THROUGH, and of course to stay true, TRUE. You stay true to your vision, TRUE, by staying through, THROUGH, right? And we talked about a simple 3-step process that you create a plan, you follow up on the plan, and then you follow through with the plan. You create the plan, you follow up on the plan, and then you follow through with the plan. Now, in creating the plan, we spent a lot of time. We talked about moving from strategy to strategic themes and strategic goals. I'll say that again. Go from your overall strategy. And we said, if you truly are a leader, it is your responsibility. You are accountable for providing the strategic direction, right? This not generally or not the whole comprehensive strategic plan, but the strategic direction. And I also remember saying that if you are clear then you will be simple. Clarity leads to simplicity. If you cannot summarize the strategic direction in one word, it's probably because you have not yet become clear enough about where you're going or where you are leading others to, where you're asking others to follow you to, right? For me, the more simple it is, the clearer you are about it. The moment you cannot simplify it, it's probably because you lack clarity yourself. So always endeavor to arrive at that one word direction, that one word strategy. It can be differentiation, it can be collaboration, it can be succession. The clearer you are about it, the simpler you would be able to frame it. Extremely important. That strategy should not be complex. You should be able to define it in one word. You should be able to summarize it in one word. Now, that overall strategic direction, which is your responsibility to come up with as a transformational leader, should then be broken into strategic themes. Now, this is the collaborative process. We spoke about that last week. The process of coming up with strategic themes that you will break your one-word strategy into should be a collaborative process, because you are going to need others to own it. They mustn't just buy into it. They must actually own it. And for them to get to that point where they own it, you must have, used that process, the process of coming up with these strategic themes, to develop their intellectual capabilities, to get them to own the vision, right? And those strategic themes should then be broken down into strategic goals. Strategic goals, very, very important. Again, still in the spirit of simplicity and conciseness, we emphasize the fact that for them to truly be described as strategic themes, it's important for them to be a very sizable number, right? I remember sharing the 80-20 rule, right? And that's a simple principle that 80% of results will often come from 20% of effort, or 20% of things. And we applied it to so many things. We talked about sometimes our signature products or signature services as organizations actually can come from very few products that we are known for that have become our defining brands, right? So similarly, in coming up with your strategic themes, as much as possible, you want to keep it concise, not more than 4. For us, as much as possible, we would even say 3, but maximum of 4. Some push for as much as 5. Well, if you must go for 5 strategic themes, go for them. But just remember that you want to be sure that they are truly, truly strategic, right? So you have your overall strategic direction, one word. You now have the strategic themes, which as much as possible should be, arrived at in a collaborative format, right? Collaboratively. And then your strategic themes should then be broken down into your strategic goals, right? So that's a summary, creating the plan. Now, this week, we're going to look at the second part of that 3-step process. Remember, you create the plan, you follow up on the plan, and then you follow through with the plan. This week, we're going to look at following up on the plan. Following up on the plan. How do you follow up on the plan? Of course, you must first of all have come up with a plan. You must first of all have created the plan. In following up with the plan, this is where you want to make sure that as much as possible, you are detailed. I don't know if you've ever heard of the expression, the devil is in the details. It can be very true. The devil there meaning the challenges, the obstacles, right, can be in the details. When you're creating the plan, right, you want to be as specific, as detailed as possible, right? You have your overall direction. You start with that broad direction. You have your strategic themes, also broad, not as broad as the strategic direction, not as broad as the one-word strategic direction, but also broad, also encompassing. But when you get to your strategic goals, you want to introduce the element of detail. Very, very important. Let me give you a simple example. We're going to be approaching a new year, right? And sometimes you have New Year's, right? Sometimes you have new calendar years. Sometimes you have new organizational years. Sometimes you even have new personal years. For some people, they approach a new birth year. Now, anytime you're approaching a new year, it's always a good time to review your goals, to review your strategies as organizations, your strategic plans. And one of the things that helps is when you have specified, when you have, detailed these things. So your overall strategic direction for the year can be one word, or for 3 years, as the case may be, can be one word. Your strategic themes can be broken down into different quarters. But when it comes to your strategic goals, you want to make sure you have a month-by-month detailed plan. Follow me very carefully. You have your overall direction for the year or for 3 years, as the case may be, but at least 1 year. You also have your strategic themes, maybe focused on the different quarters. This will be my theme for quarter 1. This will be my theme for quarter 2. This will be our theme for quarter 3. Right? I'm just using that as an example. It's not a hard or fast rule. But when it comes to your strategic goals, when you get to your month by month goals, that is where you want to have the details. And trust me, we are not sharing what we don't do. We don't do that in Amogate. In Amogate, we practice what we preach and we preach what we practice. That's what gives us the credibility, the authenticity, and believe me, the authority to share the things we do. When we get to our monthly goals, that is where we specify the details, whether we are having our departmental meetings, whether we're having our organizational meetings, whether we are having our month-to-month performance meetings. This is where we specify the details. There is, as much as you want to be strategic, very, very important, when it comes to implementation, you do need the details. And I would strongly suggest that in the setting of the monthly plans and the setting of the monthly goals, that is where you specify the details. Now, once you have done that, following up then becomes easier because it is those same details that you also use as the basis of following up. Again, I would strongly recommend a month-on-month following up at some levels. Now, as the overall leader, you may not be able to follow up with every department every month. That's the truth. Depending on the size of the organization, depending on the number of people that you oversee, right, on the number of people that you're ultimately accountable for. But there must be a level at which you are doing a month-on-month monitoring, and there must be other levels where you then engage quarterly. But I would strongly suggest that as far as those reporting directly to you are concerned, you want to engage with them on a monthly basis and ensure that those details, remember, which means that this means that to begin with, you have specified some month by month goals. You have, gone through the discipline of articulating those monthly goals, and it would then become very important to ensure that you're receiving feedback on those monthly goals. There are a couple of things I want to say here. Thank God for COVID, right? COVID came with a lot of disadvantages, but it also came with some advantages, right? One of the things that COVID did was it brought a more remote work environment, right? More at minimum, you had more hybrid environments. Environments that used to be utterly physical have become at least hybrid now, and some have become completely remote. Why am I referring to this? Because if you want to wait until you have physical meetings to gauge on those monthly reviews, you also may have more challenges. Learn to leverage technology, extremely important. You do not have to meet physically. As a matter of fact, I would even say, quote and unquote, use all the range of technological alternatives. And I know what I'm saying. Sometimes you can get very, very, very busy depending on how much you're handling, that you cannot even have your monthly virtual meetings on different platforms, whether it's Microsoft Teams or it's Zoom. Guess what? You can ask for a recording. What about that? Sometimes you can watch these in transit. You can watch this on a flight. You can watch this depending on what's convenient for you. What is important is that you are following up. And I know I'm sharing all of these ranges. Now, of course, you can also ask for written reports. Very, very important. That now, if the process, because I know that helps, I can tell you from experience, right? As a transformational leader, the process of compiling a monthly reporting sort of guarantees implementation. I'll say that again. The process of compiling a monthly reporting enhances the chances of implementation. When people know that you are going to require, not just request, but you're going to compel, you're going to demand that monthly reporting during the course of the month, it keeps them in check. Again, we are not sharing things we don't do as in Amogate. We are only sharing the things we do, and that's what gives us the authority to preach these things, right? Because we do them ourselves, right? So it's important, the monthly monitoring. Remember, today's episode is looking at following up with the plan. We've talked about creating the plan last week, right? Creating that strategic plan that helps to, ensure the implementation of your transformational vision. Now we're talking about following up with the plan. And we are emphasizing the need for details. We are also drawing in the place of monthly goal setting. Very, very important. You have your 3-year plan, important. We've talked about that in the last 2 weeks. You have your quarterly plans, very, very important. But if you actually want to see implementation, you must have your monthly goal setting. Very, very important. And those monthly goals, the accumulation of those monthly goals should be getting you closer to the implementation of your transformational vision. My name is Tolu Omodara, and this is still the making of a transformational leader on Amogre Communications. We are looking at the concept of following through with your strategic plan. We started this last week, and this is the second stream of that, following through with your strategic plan for the implementation of a transformational vision. The transformational vision has to be translated into a strategy. The strategy should be broken down into a strategic plan. In coming up with a strategic plan, you should learn to have strategic themes. You set the overall direction. You also break this down into themes. The strategic themes will be further broken down into strategic goals, and these goals should then be as detailed as possible. The details serve as a tool for monitoring, and that's the second part of the simple 3-step process we shared last week. You create the plan, you follow up on the plan, and you follow through with the plan. I'll say that again. You create the plan, you follow up on the plan, and then you follow through with the plan. Last week, we talked about creating the plan. This week, we're talking about following up with the plan, right? And there's something I want to say here. Your job as a transformational leader is to ensure that everyone implements their part of the goal. I'll say that again. Your job as a transformational leader, part of your job is to ensure that everyone implements their part of the plan. What am I saying? You are accountable for the overall implementation of the plan, but you are not going to implement the whole plan by yourself. You are accountable, right? Not necessarily responsible, but the overall accountability for the full implementation of each aspect of the strategic plan, it rests with you. Now, for that to happen, a lot of monitoring is required of you. A lot of monitoring. You are not going to have what it takes. We've said that again and again on this program. You're not going to have what it takes to implement a truly transformational vision all by yourself. You are not going to be able to do it alone, except the vision is not gargantuan enough, except the vision is not robust enough, except the vision is not transformational enough. There's only so much that you can do on your own. However, you are supposed to ensure that you're monitoring, you're following up, you're checking up with every single person, especially those that report directly to you, and making sure that they also do same for those that report directly to them. That element is extremely crucial. That's what we call performance management, right? Sometimes that performance management element is extremely important, and a lot of it requires constant monitoring. Very, very, very important. Constant monitoring, following up on the plan. When you've done a good job, especially in creating the plan, last week we talked about things like RACI, different kinds of frameworks to ensure that each department, each unit, each individual understands the specific parts that they have to play in contributing to the implementation of that plan, right? That strategic plan must be broken down into different segments so that each department, each division, each unit, each individual knows the part that he or she or they have to play, the chunk of the plan that they are responsible for delivering, the outcomes, the outputs that they are responsible for that would contribute, and that will accumulate in the overall impact. Very, very important. That's all part of creating the plan. Now, when that has been done, that becomes the tool, that becomes the basis for monitoring. You are then going to take the aspect of the goals, the aspect of the plan that belongs to each department, each division, each unit, each individual, right? And you're going to be responsible for following up. That becomes the tool with which you will monitor. That becomes the basis with which you'll be following up on the plan. And the constant monitoring is extremely important. There's something else I want to talk about here, metrics. Metrics, very, very, very important. Now, when it comes to, getting those reports I was talking about earlier, like that I said, can be very good as a way of monitoring. Sometimes it also helps when you have defined the metrics. Yes, you want to read about the challenges, you want to read about the context, you want to read about different things that may not have been envisaged. Very, very important. Leave room for those details, but you also want to see where you are based on some metrics, right? So, for instance, if at the beginning you had specified that you wanted to improve, for instance, output by a certain percentage, right? That becomes the metric you want to look out for. Much as you want to understand the surrounding context, you also want to be tracking the metrics. Extremely important. The process of defining those metrics are part of what you could have done in creating the plan. And I also need to say something here. The plan does not need to be rigid. In other words, as you are getting this feedback month on month, quarter on quarter, if there is a need to review the plan, please do so. Extremely important. Review the plan. If there are fundamental assumptions that need to be re-examined, allow for feedback, right? And that's why much as you receive, it's a balance. That's why we talk a lot about dexterity and mortgage. You want to make sure that you are balancing things. So much as you want to understand the context, you still want to be monitoring the metrics. However, on the other hand, in as much as you want to make sure that the metrics are being monitored, you also want to ensure that they do not, sort of exclude the context, because you're going to need to know not just the what, but the why. The what is like the metrics are like the what. This is what is happening. We have grown. For instance, if key metric for you is to increase your customer base. So yes, much as you want the context, you also want to be monitoring how much customers have we, added to the base, right? Very important. If, for instance, your service level score is what is important to you, what are your customers saying about you? You want to make sure you go from one grade to the other if that's what matters to you, right? So you want to be monitoring those metrics. You don't just want them to be reporting on the context, but you also want to make sure you have a sense of why are we where we are, right? So you just don't want to say, or you just don't want to hear, oh, we have grown by X or we have not grown by Y. You want to know why have we grown by X if we have grown, so that we can maintain it, so that we can expand it, so we can promote it, or why have we not grown by Y if you're not grown by Y, so we can deal with those issues. So leave room for that feedback, right? And I need to also say something here. Sometimes when you have quote unquote perfected certain things, I'm using that word in quote because there's always room for improvement. The biggest room, like they say, is the room for improvement. But when you have perfected certain things, or you have proven certain things, when you have used certain things, you also can learn to set them into templates. Very, very important, right? So that instead of having different divisions, different departments, different units struggling with how to report, you can have a simple template. Again, I'll keep on saying it. These are things that we are very happy to help you with in Amogate. These are things we have done severally. It's our expertise. We have done it again and again and again. We do it so well. It's our forte, and we enjoy doing this. We do what we love, and we love what we do. Now, having said that, let me go back to what I was saying. So you can create simple reporting templates. Very, very important. Simple reporting templates where you can capture the metrics. It becomes the basis for following up with the plan. Following up with the plan. You have created the plan. Remember that simple 3-part process. You create the plan, you follow up with the plan, and you follow through with the plan. Today we are looking at following up with the plan. Those simple reporting templates become a very vibrant, vital, critical, and effective tool for following up with the plan. You as a transformational leader are not going to be able to do everything, but you can receive this report from the different divisions, from the different units, from the different departments, from different individuals where necessary, especially those that report directly to you, and that becomes the basis for evaluating what is going on. That becomes the basis for monitoring what is going on. That becomes the your feedback mechanism to know where you are, to know whether you are still sustaining the momentum, to know whether the vision is still burning, to know whether it's still on fire, and to actually keep it burning, right? Because it's not, as a transformational leader, you're not just supposed to be monitoring, you're actually supposed to be creating. I'll say that again. As a transformational leader, it's not just your job to be monitoring whether the vision is still burning. It is your job to create that fire continually, to ensure the fire keeps burning, to create the fire anew. And that's what following up with the plan does. Like I said, when your people know that you're going to be requiring monthly reports, that you're going to be monitoring, that itself is a way of renewing the fire, right? That in itself is a way of keeping it aglow, keeping it a burning. When they know, oh, we are going to report on this at the end of this month, when they know that this transformational leader is going to ask us to report on the metrics, right? And remember, as much as possible, even the process of coming up with the metrics should be collaborative. Your job is to set the tone, right? To ensure that those metrics are connected to the strategic themes. Very, very important. And the strategic themes, of course, should be connected to the overall strategic direction. My name is Tolulope Omodai, or simply Tolu Omodai. This is Amogate Radio Communications. We've been looking at the making of a transformational leader since the beginning of the quarter. And as the year winds down, we are winding down. We'll be looking at following through with your strategic plan for the implementation of a transformational vision. We started this last week, we couldn't finish it, and we are continuing this week. Last week, we looked at creating this a plan, right? We looked at a simple 3-step process: create the plan, follow up on the plan, follow through with the plan. Last week, we looked at create the plan, and this week, we are looking more at following up with the plan. Extremely important. The process of following up with a plan is a way of ensuring that you stay afresh, you stay anew, you keep it going, and you keep the fire glowing. Extremely important. But there are certain tools you need, right? The metrics, the reporting templates, right? Use technology as well. And let me also say something here. When you are receiving those reports, especially for those that you need to meet with, right? You will determine the ones that are more critical. Those that you need to. Some will just send in the reports, and you can share the feedback or forward it. For some are critical, you have to determine those that are very critical, either because they report directly to you, either because they manage those that you do not deal with directly, and therefore you get feedback from others through them. It's also sometimes important to have them make presentations, right? Sometimes you also want to bring heads of different departments together. That way you can also have peer reviews. You can also have visibility across the organization, right? When you bring, especially those that report directly to you, you bring them together sometimes to have them make presentations. You may be able to do this monthly. If you cannot do this monthly, depending on the size of your organization, please try to do this quarterly. I would recommend very strongly that this does not go anything less than once a quarter. Extremely important. If it goes less than once a quarter, you already may be challenging the execution resilience, right? Or the execution excellence. So extremely important you bring different people together to have them make presentations, right? At least once a quarter, but at the minimum once a month, there must be monthly reports. Extremely important. Those reports must give you details. Very important. There must be monthly goals that are set. Now, there's one little bit I want to throw in as we begin to wrap up for this episode. When they give you the monthly report, right, it goes without saying that they should also give you the fresh goals for the new month. In other words, as they are evaluating the month gone by, they should also, on the basis of that, tell you what they are specifically going to target in the next month. Remember, this is about details. This is not too strategic. You've done the very strategic stuff by setting the strategic direction, the strategic themes, right? But at this level of implementation, you want to see the details, the month by month details. And the cumulative effect of this would be that you are moving closer and closer to your strategic direction, to your transformational vision. But at this level, this monthly level, you really, really want to see the details. You are following up. So again, like I said, it goes without saying, but let me also emphasize it. It's implied, but let me make it explicit. When they are giving you the review of the past month, they should also be specifying the goals for the incoming month, right? So as they're giving you the review of, for instance, November just gone, that becomes the basis on which they are specifying the objectives for December. Very, very important. Very, very important. And then when they are reporting the following month, they also follow the same cycle. That way, implementation becomes a continuously moving target. Wow. I think it's on this note that we're going to draw a curtain on this week's episode. of the Making of a Transformational Leader, we have been looking at following through with your strategic plan for the implementation of a transformational vision. I'll repeat, following through with your strategic plan for the implementation of a transformational vision. We've emphasized the need for details a lot, right? When you're following up with your plan, you've created the plan, but when you're following up with your plan, you really, really want to see the details. You want to see, the monthly goals, right? Very, very important. The details. You want to see the monthly goals for the new month, just as you want to see the evaluation of the goals that were set for the month just passed, right? And then this becomes your tool for monitoring. You ask questions, you probe, you look at the metrics. The metrics must have been agreed, but you also want to understand the context, the reasons for why those metrics were achieved or not achieved. And then that helps, especially when it comes to quarterly reviews, when hopefully you can bring more people together and you can have more comprehensive retreat-like sessions. Well, we hope again that you've learned some things on this edition of the program. My name is Tolu Omoda. We've been looking at the making of a transformational leader. We've been talking about how do you follow through with your strategic plan for the implementation of a transformational vision. In other words, how do you move from conceptualization to implementation? Thank you so much for doing this with us. Please follow us on Facebook, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram. We look forward to hearing from you. Your feedback matters a lot to us. We want you to like our page. We want you to share what you learned. And we also want you to please do your best to, implement and practice some of these things. If you need our support in any way, feel free to reach out to us. And we'll be very excited to share what we've learned in over a decade and a half. Thank you so much. Be good to yourselves. Take good care of yourself. We'll be back same time, same station next week, possibly for the last edition for the year. Until then, be good, and we look forward to having you again. Thank you so much. Bye.